All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to introduce Congressman John M. Katko from New York, my home state. A New York native, John left his 20-year career as a federal prosecutor to run for public office because he believes Central New York deserves strong, independent leadership in Washington. In Congress, John served as a member of the House Homeland Security Committee as chair of the Transportation Security Subcommittee. As chairman, he made TSA's reauthorization a priority and has always sought input from ALPA when considering this and other aviation security-related legislation. He also serves on the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. Congressman Katko, thank you for making time from your busy schedule. Sir, the podium is yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, my Lord, I know it's right after lunch. I know you ate, but come on now. Good afternoon. Oh, that's better. I want to thank ALPA for inviting me here today, and you're exactly right. I do seek input from all sectors related to air travel and transportation security. It's critically important that I not only hear from the folks on Capitol Hill, but I hear from the more normal folks like you all here today. So thank you very much for that. Representing more than 55,000 pilots, including one of my neighbors, I believe, across 32 airlines, ALPA has a unique ability to positively affect policy here in Washington. And as chairman of the Transportation Security and Protective Subcommittee for the past 2 years, the first 2 years it was TSA only, and now I have Secret Service, which is another fine agency that runs just like a clock right now, as we know. I look forward to working with ALPA going forward on many different issues, including this one. I want to talk in the brief time I have today on three main areas. Last point of departure developments, last point of departure airport developments, which, as you all know, are a major point of concern for myself and for the committee and for this country. Talk about TSA in general and some of the things and the concerns I have with TSA. And lastly, about access controls at airports, which has been a major bugaboo of mine since I first went to the Hill. Now, with respect to last point of departure airports, as many of you know, the aviation sector faces a variety of adapting threats, and some of them were just touched on, that jeopardize travel and tourism in the United States and around the world. Just last week, TSA announced new security measures at 10 last point of departure airports. I was made aware of those in the basement of the Capitol, like I often do. They bring us downstairs in this lead-lined room with our phones and all the electronics outside, and they tell us what's going on. Well, I can't divulge to you what was said there. I can tell you that the threat is real, and it is serious, and the actions taken were serious. I anticipate that more airports, more countries will be taking unilateral action that TSA took at these 10 airports. The UK, I know, has started at some of their airports, and I think some of the others will probably follow suit as the intelligence is more widely disseminated for them to consider. The new security regulations are strictly security-based and reflect the current challenging threat environment. We continue to see foreign terrorist organizations like ISIS and Al-Qaeda target airports and airlines in innovative ways that are quite scary. And unfortunately, they've been successful, as we know. Terrorists downed a Metrojet flight from Sharm el-Sheikh about a year ago and attempted to down a flight from Somalia with a bomb that was secreted within a laptop, and it blew out the side of the airplane. And thankfully, the only person hurt was a guy who detonated the bomb. He was sucked out of the plane. Everyone else was okay. They've attacked airports in Brussels and Istanbul. They clearly are targeting others, and actually, we had incidents in domestically as well at Fort Lauderdale. That wasn't ISIS related, but it was something that we have to be mindful of. The focus on attacking the aviation sector possesses the potential for mass casualties, significant economic damage, as well as mass publicity through media coverage. I often refer to that as the home run ball for the bad guys. Taking out an airliner is something that they would love to do. Al-Qaeda in particular is very fixated on it, but ISIS has now, of course, shown a proclivity to want to do that as well. Last Congress, I was able to pass H.R. 4698, and it was signed into law, I'm happy to say. This is a typical Washington title on the bill. So securing aviation from foreign entry points and guarding airports through Enhanced Security Act, otherwise known as Safe Gates. They had to scramble to make sure they got the right acronym, The woman over here, Krista Harvey, the head of my committee, you can thank her for that long-winded title because she came up with it. It was actually pretty good. This bill includes several important reporting requirements to Congress on security susceptibilities at LPDs. We mandated that LPDs go through this, TSA examine them, and I venture to guess that much of what TSA took as far as remedial action with those 10 LPDs, at least in part, had something to do with this, the bill we have passed and signed into law. It directs TSA to evaluate cargo screening practices and authorizes TSA to donate screening equipment to meet threat-based standards in other countries. This Congress, I will continue to build off my work on LPDs to ensure that TSA is meeting the challenges of the current threat environment. Additionally, I will continue to press the administration to ensure that international security standards and practices are capable of meeting these standards, these challenges. I must say as an aside, one of the things I'm concerned about with, I know you've heard of the term ICAO, the ICAO standards. I'm a little concerned that they may, at a minimum, be inadequate and also may pose an additional threat because the standards that are so minimal that places in airports around the world that may otherwise not qualify, in my mind, meet the minimum ICAO standards. Unfortunately, a lot of people look and say, well, they meet the minimum ICAO standards, so the airport's fine. Well, that's not always the case, and we can't accept that. So that would be a large hill for us to climb to reform those standards, but I'm going to endeavor to do so moving forward because I think it's really important to take a look at that. TSA. We don't have enough time to discuss TSA in its entirety, but here's how I view the agency. It was born out of a tragedy, and as Americans, we always rally around a tragedy, and we try to do the right thing. And one of the things we do, it's one of the times when Congress throws a lot of money at something, and they throw a lot of bureaucracy at things. And they formed TSA. It's not about a 60,000 employee agency. It's about 12 or 13 years old. And it has all the telltale signs of a firmly entrenched bureaucracy. And I'm constantly battling every day on my committee to try and address the myriad issues that they have. It's been continuously challenged by high turnover, extraordinarily high turnover, ineffective programs, and abuses on employees. Systemic problems may be addressed, and they will be addressed, if we meet today's and tomorrow's security challenges. We have to address them. We have no choice. The bad guys, as you heard from your previous speaker, and as I'm telling you, are getting more sophisticated, and they're more determined than ever to attack our airlines and our airports. This year I introduced H.R. 1309, the TSA Administrator Modernization Act, which, among other things, establishes a 5-year term for the TSA Administrator. This aims to provide sustained leadership in an agency that can, at times, seem aimless, like a rudderless ship. To give an example, since I've been in Congress in 2014, they've had 5 different acting or permanent administrators, 5. There's no continuity when you have that, and if you don't have continuity at the top, you cannot have leadership throughout. And that's what I'm very concerned about. So we're hoping that whomever the new administrator is going to be someone that's going to stay there for more than 6 months, more than 8 months, more than a year, and get some continuity. We borrowed the idea from agencies like the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And you see someone who's appointed in one administration holding over to the next. And the less partisan you get, the better results you will have. And that's something we're working on and believe very much in. TSA is also in the middle of a 5-year technology acquisition review process that is crucial for improving several internal programs. TSA must improve its relationship with private industry. That is patently clear to me. Their procurement practices, in a word, stink. They stovepipe, they don't look outside the box, they're not looking at all the innovative technologies that are out there. They're very slow to come to the table with respect to biometrics, which I think are the future of aviation security and indeed immigration security, amongst other things. I look at procurement, I look at the way they handle RFPs and how they deal with private vendors, and they have an RFP, it's out there for many months, sometimes many years, and then they pull it back, and meanwhile these vendors who are developing these products based on the RFPs are out in the cold. It's not how it should work. And biometrics, I do think, are going to be a very key to the future, and we need to take a look at that as well. Private industry is not the enemy. Private industry is the future. Many airports are discussing or have already gone to what's called SPP, or private screening. That's overseen by The TSA, it's a model that I think each airport should leave to themselves to decide how they want to do it. And we've got to make sure that they have the necessary tools to make the proper decision. Something else that does not get a lot of discussion, and something that we need to pay very close attention to, especially big airports, is access controls. And I want to give you a couple of examples of the concerns I have. And first of all, let me just explain to you what I'm talking about. When you go into an airport as a traveler, you're subjected to probably 10 times more screening than you do if you're an employee. Not a pilot or not an airline employee. I'm talking about people that work at the airport, people that handle the bags, people that fuel the planes, people that go from the secure to the non-secure to the secure area of airports. It's a terrible situation in my mind. And when I first got here, my prosecutor antenna went up very quickly. A guy got off a flight from Atlanta to LaGuardia, and in his backpack was either 16 or 17 guns, in his backpack on the plane. And most of them were loaded, and at least two of them, I believe, were assault rifles that were collapsible. And he was found after he got off the flight, not when he got on the flight, when he got off. And he admitted it was about his 10th flight. He had taken about that many on each of the flights. And he said that he explained how he got the guns past security. He just had one of his buddies come in on a day off, swipe his SIDA card, his access card, and walk through the airport with the backpack full of guns, gave them to his buddy, and his buddy just would sell them on the streets of New York City. Now, if that guy decided to be a terrorist or something happened and someone got a hold of those guns on an airplane, it could be taken down, of course, and it could be a disaster. And that was shocking to me. And as I went on, I found more and more examples, one of which was in Dallas-Fort Worth, a drug case, a major drug case, where they were watching which entry points to the secure areas of the airports were manned, or whether there was a Viper team there or whatever. And they would just tell you where they were going. So what would they do? They would just go to another entry point that bring their drugs in. There was a recording or a statement made by one of the corrupt employees who said, yeah, we can bring drugs on anytime, guns, that's no problem. We can even bring bombs on if you want. Now think about that, right? Find out that this guy's wife, who worked for an airline, would also check the manifest to determine which flights had federal air marshals on them. And it would tip off the inside employees. So you got to understand that this is a real issue. And the last example I'll give you was made known 3 days after I issued a task force report on this issue. And it happened in Puerto Rico, and I think some of you know about that. And I'm very well versed about Puerto Rico because I spent 2 years there as a federal organized crime prosecutor going after cartel-level drug traffickers. It's a difficult place, to say the least. And my wife lasted about a month there, and she had to go back home with my son for safety reasons. But for years, TSA employees and airline employees would smuggle cocaine, bypass the security, and smuggle cocaine into the baggage section and load them on planes and send them on their way. 20 tons of cocaine, worth countless millions of dollars on the street. 20 tons, a systemic, corrupt infiltration and ignoring of the screening procedures at airports. Those are just 3 examples of what I'm talking about with the access controls. So my subcommittee and I, we got to work very quickly. And from perimeter security to the failure of recurrently high-risk airports and individuals, airports and airlines need to rethink how they approach security. It's very, very important. I realize that airport security is no place for a one-size-fits-all solution. Every airport's different. Syracuse, New York is not Atlanta, Georgia. And that is why I introduced H.R. 876, the Aviation Employee Screening and Security Enhancement Act. We did it in conjunction with unions. We did it in conjunction with the airline industry. We did it with input from ALPA and everyone else. And includes a cost and feasibility study, mandates it, conducted by TSA and the Aviation Security Advisory Committee to ascertain the effectiveness of employee screening at all entry and exit points using biometric technologies, video surveillance, and other enhanced screening technologies to better deter this type of conduct and avoid the calamitous thing of someone smuggling a bomb or some similar explosive device onto a plane. This bill will ensure that the administrator consults with air carriers, air operators, vendors, and airport concessionaires regarding security issues like credentialing, which is a major problem, and insider threats. The conversations are aimed to educate workers on the ground, in the airport, and in the air about current and future threats. Finally, this bill will require the administrator to work with all parties to identify technologies that will best secure airport employee access to the sterile areas of the airport. I can go on and on about access controls, but I think it's one of the most profound security issues that we are ignoring in this country, and we can't ignore it any longer. We must pay attention to it. We continue to face serious challenges. There's just no question about it. I just touched on a few of them, and there's many more. But I'm encouraged by the cooperative air that we've established on our committee, and I'm encouraged by the professional and very substantive interactions with ALPA. It's very helpful for us. I think public engagement is crucial to getting this right, and we're going to continue to work on that. And moving forward, I just hope and pray that we do everything we can to make it safe, so you guys never have to worry about any sort of security issues that are of a concern. But make no mistake about it, and you must realize this, and I don't say this to scare you, but this is, the threat is real, the threat is serious. The bad guys really do want to bring down planes and do harm to us, and they would love nothing more than that, and so we have to be ever vigilant. Thank you guys all very much. I do have to run for votes, but I just appreciate listening, and if you have any questions, let representatives know, and we're always open, and we will listen, and we will act upon it. So God bless.